All right. Sorry that was so abrupt. I just had to add in an extra thing on the side that wasn't there before. Anyway, sorry about that. So we have here from the Eye. Rebels force Sunak to back down on housing. Rishi Sunak. Rebels force Sunak to back down from housing. 50 Tory MPs threatened to protest over planning reforms. Let's see what they have in their sub-headline, because that's usually more informative than the headline itself. The Eye reports almost 50 Tory rebels forced Rishi Sunak to scrap plans to introduce mandatory local housing targets for councils. The paper says the episode was the first parliamentary test of its prime minister. What? That doesn't make sense. I must be misreading that. If I'm honest, I really don't like going through the papers by myself. I do struggle a lot with reading, so it probably does make sense, but I'm misreading it. We have some extra stories here. Let me just bring them up. Okay, so this is from BBC News. Croydon County. Oh God, I can't get through this headline without laughing. Croydon County Council declares bankruptcy for the third time. The council has a debt of £1.6 billion. How does Croydon Council have that much debt? That's ridiculous. Local libraries, retail parks, and community hubs have all been sold off in South London Council after it declares bankruptcy for the third time. It faces a 30. Sorry, I trip over my words too often. 130. Croydon County Council faces 130 million black hole in the next year's budget, so they're getting cut on top of the debt. I guess because they can't be responsible with the money, so they don't just give them money. I suppose that makes sense. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, we'll go to the next one. The Evening Standard. Conservative popularity crashes to its lowest point in 15 years. Conservatives' popularity have crashed the lowest in 15 years as it battles a major lack of trust over its management of the economy, new polls reveal. 62% of Britons say they didn't like the Tories, while 60% said they no longer trust the party on the economy, according to IPOS. Yeah, I've heard of it before. It's the government polling company, or government funded. Not actually, the government one is YouGov. That doesn't surprise me. You know what? Actually, that does surprise me. Lowest point in 15 years. I genuinely would have thought it would have been more. I really do. I know most people I know who are conservatives say they're just probably not going to bother voting because it's pointless. The Conservatives are useless in this country. I will certainly be voting for third party in the next election. What's the point? What's the point of voting for the Conservatives if they just mess up again and again and again and again and again? It's just not worth it, in my opinion, obviously. Honestly, they do actually. I believe they do actually need to leave office. I believe they need to be voted out, so Labour can run this country for 5 years and also run it into the ground, as all parties probably will. But I think the Conservatives need to lose badly to really realise what's going on. I think they need to reset their party because they pretend, we're listening to the common people. We're listening to what the people are saying. They're not. They're doing the most unconservative things imaginable. Immigration. was lower under Labour. Taxes were lower under Labour. Illegal immigration was lower under Labour. Labour's tax plan wasn't even as high as the Conservatives' current plan that they've implemented. Labour weren't even saying 50%, and that's what the Conservatives are saying. So it seems like the Conservatives are taking Labour's policies and making them more left-wing and then implementing them. It doesn't make sense, and that's why their polling is so low. That Labour probably aren't going to get elected because of how incompetent they are, and what Keir Starmer's going to be the next Prime Minister of this country. He's the most boring and uncharismatic person imaginable to do the job. Just like Rishi Sunak, really. Well, I've had my rant about the useless Conservatives, because they are useless. They really do infuriate me. I have a couple other stories here. Oh yeah, okay. So there was one I found recently. So VAT, okay, value added tax. VAT is added onto luxury items. Those luxury items are cars, computers, phones, anything that's not essential. So food, bread, milk don't have VAT because they are essentials. Whereas computers, phones, cars are luxuries. That's why they have VAT on them. Makes sense, right? Well, here's the thing. Do you know what is not taxed with VAT, which is classed as an essential item, and that is private jets. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Private jets do not have VAT, which means they are classed as an essential and not a luxury. Private jets. I mean, obviously, the people in power, the party, obviously implemented that themselves because obviously they have all the private jets, because they care about the environment so much, but we're going to fly everywhere on our private jets. It's ridiculous, honestly. But we have another headline here. This is the Daily Express. Unions inflict Christmas strike mystery. Oh, not mystery, misery. So that's the title of today's video, Christmas Chaos. Because the RTM are going to be striking throughout Christmas and the Christmas holidays. So if you wanted to go see your family and you don't have a car and you were planning on traveling by train, as a lot of people do, you can't. The rail companies are just, they really don't know how PR works, because sure, it's great for them, they get more money, but they're pissing off. Sorry, but they're really just they are pissing off everyone. It's ridiculous. I don't know many people who do support RTM. I certainly don't. And when I can, I don't pay for a train ticket anymore because I'm not going to waste my money on a company that hates its customers. That's ridiculous. When I can buy a child, I always buy a child ticket on Thameslink trains because they don't have staff on them, so they don't check. And Southern Rail don't seem to have many staff members. If you're going from Lewes to Brighton or Brighton to Littlehampton, they don't have staff on their trains. But if you're going through Southern Rail through Victoria, so if it's Eastbourne to London Victoria, it does have staff. If it's Littlehampton to Victoria, it does have staff. So you have to be careful of which train you get on. But when I do, when I know which train I'm getting on, for sure, I always get a child ticket because I'm not spending my money on a company that doesn't like its users. It doesn't make sense. So I don't want to give them my money. Plus, they're government subsidized, so they're not missing out on anything, are they, really? That's the only reason they're striking, is because they can. You don't see electricians and plumbers striking because they're not government subsidized, really. Obviously, British Gas is, and the major ones, but like self-employed people, plumbers, electricians, shopkeepers, your local high street shop, whatever it might be, the clothes shop, they don't strike because they can't, because they're a small business and they're not government subsidized, really, not to the point that the major companies are. So they can't strike. The only reason the rail companies are striking is because they can get away with it. If they weren't government subsidized, they wouldn't ever strike. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. That's why teachers strike. They know they can. Same with the bus companies. They're government subsidized majorly. They can do whatever they want. It's infuriating and it's ridiculous. And I really do hold a grudge against the rail companies, RTM specifically. I'm just ranting this morning. No one's here. I don't know why Keith isn't here. I don't know why Stuart's not turned up. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to a longer clip, and I'm going to try and get one of them in. Speaking of, all right, here we go. Garden Park. Okay. Oh, hang on a minute. Okay. So, I don't know what Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why that was being so slow. So we'll move on to the next headline. Sorry about that. I was just talking to Stuart. He will be in about 10 o'clock. So you have a short while till he arrives. But we do have another clip lined up, not right this second, because we've done too many already. But we do have another clip of Leslie's People. And this one we haven't shown before. This is Leslie with Norman Baker. Speaking of Norman Baker, actually, Norman Baker does have... he has an article in the Mail today. He has a whole page, I believe. Well, I'm not sure where it is, but it's in the Daily Mail if you would like to read it. Norman Baker is, from what I've heard, a very, very, very good politician in the local area. He was a Lib Dem, and he worked. I think he works with GB News now. I'd love to do some more experience with him over there. That'd be quite cool. But yeah, I do like GB News. Controversial, sure. I like them. Who else do they have on GB News? They have Lawrence Fox, Leo Kurtz. They have quite a few good people on GB News. Norman Baker being one of them. He presents one of his shows there. So if you're interested, go take a look at that at some point. I think his shows are in the evenings, if I'm not mistaken, or once a week. I can't remember. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next headline. We can't have gone through all of them. Okay, here we go. The Daily Mail. When will the unions in? When will the? Oh my gosh! What is wrong with me today? My reading is. All right. So we're gonna go to the Norman Baker clip right now. I'm gonna phone Keith because he should have been here already. I don't know where he is, so I'm gonna check on him and make sure he's okay. So we're gonna go to this clip.
Welcome to Leslie's People, and the painting we're bringing alive this week is Norman Baker. Norman has been, for a long time, the MP locally, but he had a career outside of politics, and an interesting one at that. Norman, one of the things that we know about you is that you are a digger for information. You're a terrier, and you were very keen on the very strange case of Dr. Kelly.
This is 2003, and this was the famous government, soon to become famous government scientist, who was involved in working on illegal chemical and biological weapons, not just for Britain but for the world. He was then roped into the government's tissue of lies, which we had, the false documents, the dodgy dossiers, which were produced to justify the Iraq War, which misled Parliament and led to the deaths of countless British soldiers and a great many more Iraqis, in what I regard as an illegal war. And Dr. Kelly, who was an expert in these matters, had significant doubts about the veracity of these dodgy dossiers, which were in part written by Alistair Campbell, made that plain to Andrew Gilligan in an off-the-record discussion at the Charing Cross Hotel in London. And then, all hell broke loose because Andrew Gilligan used this information in the broadcast early on the morning of the Today programme. The government then went into full overdrive, and Dr. Kelly was forced out. Well, then subsequently, very shortly afterwards, he was found dead in the woods. Curiously enough, that's a phrase he'd used about himself some months earlier. He was found dead in the woods in what were suspicious circumstances. However, within a couple of hours, literally, of his body being officially found, a public inquiry of sorts had been established under Lord Hutton. Lord Hutton had been identified as the right person by members in the government. He had been spoken to. He'd been found in his office in the House of Lords on a Friday morning, most curiously, because nobody's there on a Friday morning. His terms of reference had been agreed, and the whole thing was then announced by lunchtime. Well, of course, that meant that the sense of the press was directed towards this so-called inquiry which was due to take place, and away from Dr. Kelly's death. And the inquiry, I use the word lightly because there was nothing of the sort, when it took place, largely focused on the government and the BBC.
Hello, Keith.
Well, good morning. I
Good morning.
see that you were running a past interview that I did with Norman Baker at some stage.
Yes.
You may be interested to know that there is a big article. Oh, I'm getting an echo. I don't know where that's coming from. With Norman Baker, who is now forging his new career as a journalist, and he's talking about the irritating announcements that you get on trains and planes and so on. So those people who are fans of Norman's, he's in the paper this morning with a great big article.
Yeah.
There you are. Did you hear any of that?
I saw that. Here's a whole page in the mail. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right. Well, my picture's frozen. I don't know why.
Yes, I know. I'm afraid that we've had 2 bad days. The reason I was actually trying to get on at 25 to 9 for those people who know, and the internet collapsed totally. I really do think that that the internet as such is now suspect. I think it's being used too much. Too many people are using it, and that's why it's collapsing. But it just went kaput, totally kaput.
Yeah, no, I'm still here. We've been through some of the headlines this morning. I don't know if you did you see the Guardian headline this morning?
No, can you read it to me?
Yes, I can. Let me just bring it up here on the computer. Okay, so get ready for this shocking breaking news headline from the Guardian. Are you ready for this? It says, "Doctors warning: poverty forcing sick people to keep going to work."
Sorry, read it again.
It says,
Okay.
it says doctors
I've
warning.
I've got it, and I'm looking at it. Yes, doctors are warning that poverty is forcing sick people to keep going to work.
Breaking
What's your
news.
reaction to that, Max?
My reaction is a little bit sarcastic. Everyone knows this. If you don't have a lot of money, you're still going to work. I mean, I came into work when I wasn't feeling too great because I can't, I can't lose out on a bunch of money.
No, I mean, I don't know whether it's a typical Guardian headline, and they're pushing the poverty thing again. But I mean, I think it is a sign of our times. Is that you don't want to go to work, you get a sick note. In fact, I think the phrase was to pull a sickie. And
That's
it
still the
wouldn't
phrase,
surprise
yeah.
me if there aren't a lot of sickies this week with the World Cup on.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are ill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well.
I think,
What are you doing up? Explain. What are you doing up in London today, Keith?
well, very interesting because Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in the World Cup last night, 2-1. And I have a delightful man that I'm doing a training seminar with, who is from Saudi Arabia and is head of their mergers and acquisitions and the probity of their businesses. In other words, are they following guidelines? Are they good business, bad business, and so on and so forth? And he is a very charming and intelligent young man, and certainly we all know how we feel about Saudi Arabia. But if he is the future of Saudi Arabia, then I think that the country is in for a much better standing internationally. He's certainly very very articulate, very thinking. As a matter of fact, there's not a lot that I could teach him. But what we have done is we sat down and we talked about what if you've got a very good situation, what can go wrong and how you handle it. In other words, crisis assessment and crisis management. And so that's what I'm doing in London at the moment. I'm just doing it for 2 days. I shall be back with you tomorrow. And we'd hoped that I could be able to join you for any length of time, but it looks as if technology is against us. But one of the things that
It is.
the front page of the Daily Mail is reflected in most of the papers, I think, is that the unions are determined to ruin Christmas.
Yeah, not surprising, but yeah.
Breakfast.
Uh,
I actually prefer working in Lewis because I don't have to get to work until 7:15. I have to be on the
I
first
know.
train at 6:20 when I come up to London.
20 past 6. Jeez.
The 6:20 train, yeah. And as you know, we had a little meeting yesterday, so I wasn't home terribly early yesterday. I'm feeling my age. I'm aching a bit this morning, Max.
Oh, God.
But never mind. Those are the things that we mustn't denigrate the old. When will we rein in the unions intent on Christmas chaos, says the Mail. And actually, of course, the last time that there was any big confrontation between the government and unions was with Margaret Thatcher, took on a whole raft of unions. And it just shows what a determined lady she was, because basically she won. But we've had a series of prime ministers since who have either been asleep at the switch or have not realised the unions never give up, and that they would come back with a bang. And here it is, just as everything else is going wrong. We're at war. We've got inflation. We've got cost of living rises. You name it. We've got a crisis for it.
A new crisis every day.
Jumping on the bandwagon is not a good thing right now.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like we have a brand new crisis every day.
Indeed. You're absolutely right. I mean, one is forced to ask, when will it all end? Not only that, but the backbenchers are flexing their muscles again. They're seeing if they can control Rishi Sunak. So there's an internal fight in the Conservative Party, which is continuing. Not getting behind the leader. I mean, if we can't have a united government, or at least, yes, a united government, then we are in trouble, because Labour keeps on putting its foot in it. I see that Starmer addressed the CBI yesterday, and basically said that Labour would get the country running again with a raft of ideas for making sure that we have got good training and so on and so forth, and we won't have any shortages in the labour force. And by the way, we would also give legislation to open up the doors to immigrants again. So the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and the left hand doesn't know what the middle is doing. Is that they are all at sea, I'm afraid. They are all at sea. And the Daily Telegraph has taken a different tack. Menopausal NHS staff can work from home.
What?
God. That means half the female staff. But how does a menopausal nurse work from home? I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I have a few questions about that. How is that going to work?
The Times goes on a big rise in gambling addictions. Apparently, gambling in the last 12 months since lockdown has risen by 47%. And the gambling clinics have got long queues of, particularly, and this is what's disturbing, is younger people lining up to get treatment, because they've now got to the point where they haven't got any more money to gamble with, and yet they've got this great desire to carry on gambling. The headlines this morning are a little varied, and they certainly they show the mess that we're in at all levels. The Financial Times goes to its usual stuff, financial stuff. FTX chief ran crypto group as his fiefdom, the court hears. And of course, FTX is going bust. And that's the cryptocurrency empire. And that's caused a real dent in the market as well. The Mirror. The Mirror goes back to Qatar, country that bans love. That's a bit of nonsense. The Daily Star, cry for me, Argentina. Everybody, Argentina is one of the favourites, of course. It's a great footballing nation. And it got stuffed by Saudi Arabia, who are rank outsiders. So a very interesting situation there at the World Cup. There's a lot about this morning, Max, and different people are taking different tacks. But the key one really is are the unions going to be able to strike the way that they want to strike? Because frankly, coming to London in December is a no-go, whether you work here or whether you want to come up for Christmas shopping and so on. And as they point out, as analysts point out, that will put a real dent in the British economy, because Christmas is the time when the retail industry really flourishes. That's when people let their heart rule their heads when it comes to spending, and shell out a lot of money. So it's going to be a real problem for the retail industry if, in fact, those strikes take place. And of course, there are other strikes as well planned for the same time.
Yeah.
The Sun is has gone on this a TV show, The Throne, which I don't follow, so I can't comment.
No, I can't comment either. The one thing I do want to say, Keith, is what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to end the show, and I'm going to restart the computer and try to fix the technical difficulties we're having. I'm going to have to do that. So, well, for now,
all right.
For now, we'll say goodbye, and then hopefully we'll be back soon, within the next 10 to 15 minutes. Hopefully, back as soon as possible. But
well, I may have to join my my Saudi at 9:30. So perhaps I won't come back to you today, but I will be with you again tomorrow, Max.
Okay. All right. You stay there for a minute, Keith. Don't leave the call yet. But I'm going to end the broadcast. So very sorry, and we'll be back as soon as possible.